I just
I'm still repairing all mine anyway. But anyway, shall we?
yeah,
Let's
go for it,
just
mate.
let's just do one. Come on, let's just dust off the rust. Right, 5, 4. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the E5 podcast. And it has been ages since we've done one. I am your host, Paul Meenan, and I am here with the other two amigos, my brothers from other mothers. Lads, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm JW.
And it's Dave Watts, aka SparkyNinja. Hello.
And we still do not have a clue what we're doing. And we'll start off with an apology. Well, actually, no, I won't apologise. We did some, and we always said we'd only do these when there's something to talk about. We're keeping our promise. We have just spent quite a while catching up on all the personal stuff, but just to kind of give a succinct and brief infill, since our last one, obviously we have, I think, was it Paul had passed? Paul had passed, yes. I think he'd passed.
Did we do one after Paul passed away?
We need to do one. We need to do one about Paul. So we will do a
Definitely.
podcast where we get all of the guys in and talk about Paul and our memories of Mr. Skirm. We've just had his anniversary of his passing. I went to America on just the most amazing 16-day drive across America, which was just life-changing and very good for my mental health, which was great. John, you've been in America as well.
Yeah, 3 weeks. Why not? Better
Why
than
not,
sitting around in
indeed?
this country, isn't it? So,
Indeed. So we've all been to America. Dave, you've been to America as well.
Unexpected. I had a family reunion with my wife's family, a little party in San Diego. So I flew my wife and our 4 kids over there for a family thing and popped to Legoland, California while we were over there.
Awesome.
Funny
Awesome.
enough, while I was there, I was actually doing some EICR review work. So I was actually in a hotel in San Diego reviewing EICRs from Islamabad. Go figure.
Oh, I weirdly enough, everywhere I went when I was in America, I ended up near a substation. So I thought, because my
Like a
work
magnet.
colleagues at home thought I was really sad, which it can be, so I took photos of me at substations and sent them to my work colleagues. And one of them actually messaged me and said, "Please don't tell me you're driving across America looking at substations." So I just responded back with, "Yes."
Yes.
I weren't. I was doing movie locations and movie studios and you name the film on Route 66 that was filmed, and I kind of covered it, went to it, thoroughly
Yeah,
enjoyed
I
myself.
really enjoyed the stories you were sending in. They're definitely making me think I've got to do that in the future because I'm a big movie fan as well.
The one thing that I can genuinely say that Paul's passing and Derek Thompson's and a few other people that have been close to us over the years, is that old phrase, get busy living.
Indeed.
There is so much. I mean, since we've done the last podcast, I have resigned all of my IET volunteering duties because I've done my bit. I've done a shift. I've done like 9 years of solid volunteering, supporting them. And don't get me wrong, I'll still help people if they ask me to. But the official interviewing, mentoring, I've stopped all of it. And you know what? It's great because I can go to the gym. I can look after my heart. I can look after my health. I can do what I want to do, which is good. And also, sadly, my dog died last week. Bella, who's known for conversation couch assaulting of many people. Yeah, she passed away. She had cancer, unfortunately, aggressive cancer. So that was a bit of a bugger. But yeah, so we did say we would only do podcasts when there was something to talk about. And by God, there is things to talk about. Not like this wonderful 14th edition book, which I've inherited. Or, shameless plug, I read this. So You Want to Be an Electrician by Mr. Alder, who was on our podcast. Do you know what? Actually, if you're in the industry, start here.
I have the audiobook.
Well,
read by himself.
Really?
Yeah, he's read it. Yeah, I've got it on my Audible account.
Is it him doing it, or is it like Morgan Freeman or someone?
Yeah, it's him. It must be him.
Oh,
Sounds
right.
like
I
him.
was going to say that'd be really cool if Morgan Freeman or someone read it. That would just be dulcet
That would be cool.
tones
No,
of-
I'm sure it's Gary.
Can you imagine Morgan Freeman doing I see. That would be really weird. Anyway, yeah, that's a pretty good read. If you're starting in industry. Not sponsored, by the way, just to be clear. I actually paid for that. And did he actually sign it? Oh, he did. Yes, he did. So I got a
He didn't
signed
sign
copy
mine,
directly
because,
from the
well,
author.
mine's digital, so.
Yeah, he can't sign that. I've actually also started to draft and plan a book.
Have you?
I
Oh,
have, and it's about electrical things.
okay.
It's about what I do. It's the asset management of electrical things. So it's not how to install or bend conduit, but it's the benefits of it's that
To-
high level management
Yeah.
sort of spiel.
But to be honest, I think that would be a valuable book, because I think the was it a podcast or the webinar that I can't remember what it was.
Yes.
The video that we did where we covered asset management, I've had to push people towards a number of times. And one of the things I even do on the 2391 is I talk to learners and say one important thing to do is understand the business that we're doing our services to and what is important to them. Whilst we as electricians may go, oh, C1, C2, C3, very important, 7671, the business doesn't want to know jack shit about any of that stuff.
Oh yeah, most clients
They want us
wouldn't
to
give a toss.
understand. Yeah, they want us to understand what's important to their business, what's economically sustainable, and what is essentially critical to them. And I think a lot of electricians learn that along the way. We don't really have any kind of resource that really helps us understand that.
Yeah, no, I do. So just on that very quickly, very valid segue actually. So the 6-box model that we introduced in that webinar has changed to a 10-box model.
Okay.
So there is a need to update that piece of work. I am currently I'm kind of what I'm not trying to do is, and let's be perfectly frank, because we're all guilty of this. I don't want to be sat every single night from 8 o'clock in the evening till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the mornings researching stuff. You guys will attest to me on WhatsApp. Your phones will be going off at 2, 3, 4 o'clock, going in this standard. I've just found this, lads. Isn't that fascinating? And I'm sure you've woke up and gone, oh my god, he didn't stop. And you were guilty of doing it the same as well, Dave.
Yes. Yeah, we have both had bad habits, I think.
So we've all been to America. We've all loved. We've all laughed. We've all lost. In a nutshell, I've just realised I don't actually have the logins for the audio of this podcast anymore, because while I was away, my beloved missus used my computer and blew up the solid state drive. So I've lost pretty much everything. So I need to figure out how to get it back on. So this may just only be on YouTube, may not be on audio. Don't know. In between all that, the only thing I have been doing, which has been lovely, and I would like to talk about it, fixed radio. So I have been doing fixed radio with Tom. They asked me to come on it as a guest about just over a year ago.
Did you forget how to leave?
No, I did leave. I did leave. I went on and I left, and they got another bloke in, which was wonderful and all that stuff. And then they asked me back because he left. And I kind of got to the point where I thought I'd done enough. And then wonderfully, we did this away day where the founder, Lewis, decided to create Fix as a charitable trust, which was amazing. So that was the day where I went, right, I'm going to stay as long as they need me to. And Fix have got this great vision of not fixing the industry entirely, but they want to do really good things like build an old folks home for tradesmen. That's really cool, because they've got them for like radio DJs and actors and all that. So also help with a tool fund, an apprenticeship fund, and maybe even try and lobby Parliament and try and be a positive, proactive voice. And all the money they make goes into charitable stuff, which is really, really, really cool. The guy's a lovely, lovely man, just as humble as anything. So yeah, I'm kind of there until they kick me out the door, I suppose. And we do wing it. Sometimes we totally wing the episodes we do, and we get all sorts of guests on. And sometimes it's a bit of a pain going into London to do all the recording. Other times it's an absolute joy because suddenly your brain comes alive. So I think that's one of the reasons why I was thinking, well, every Thursday at 3 o'clock we talk about technical stuff for 20 minutes. Why not talk about some stuff on the old podcast with you boys, because we've got something to talk about, because this week it was Happy Amendment 3 Day. I can hear the joy in John's voice echoing.
I've literally just I mean, I've. What I have to say is there's been an awful lot of noise online. Like my LinkedIn feed's just been all about Amendment 3. So it's nice that there's an awful lot more stakeholders talking about the amendments and making sure that the message of the importance of the amendments and interacting with updating of the books and stuff is reaching a lot more people, because there's an awful lot more people talking about it. In this specific case, it's a bit short and sweet, really, isn't it?
Yes, and that's the thing. It's a really good thing that other people are talking about it, because there was what I like to call the original E5ers, your dad and Andy and a few other chaps, and Pete.
Yeah.
Pete Morris, they were the original E5ers who were challenging NAPIT and NIC and going to government, and they never got heard of. Most people listening to this go, who are the original E5ers? The original E5ers is Dave's dad. And these guys did what E5 did many years ago when we were considered disruptors without social media. They were positive influencers that only
they're basically us without knowledge of how to use social media, basically.
Yes,
it's older versions of us.
That's why I call them the old E5 boys. They were E5 before E5. But it's really good that other people talk about it now, because it's like I've always said, sow a seed. The more people that pick it up and give their view and opinion, the better the engineering logic, the better the engineering debate, and more the IET and all that lot have to listen, because I do find some of the stuff on social feeds decrepit. So one of the things I find, and I'm going to say out loud, that I have got all the time in the world for people to go out and do live events and training and all that. But the CEF live stuff irks me massively. And I don't mean what Darren and that lot are doing. They're doing a fantastic job. But I hate the marketing of it, of your chance to influence the regs. Anyone has the chance to influence the regs. You don't need to do via CEF. And as far as I'm aware, and I've asked him, and it weren't a horrible question, it was, as far as I'm aware, CEF are not on the wiring regs committee. But yet the day the wiring regs come out, they've got full videos and webinars and all sorts ready to go.
They've got a close partnership with the IET, though, haven't they?
But they shouldn't do, because
that's
to me,
probably why they're doing that.
And that's fine. So they can have a corporate partnership, but that goes against the principles, in my opinion, of BS0, because basically your close partnership gives you access to something that you shouldn't have access. So to me, it makes it rather unfair. Don't get me wrong, the output is good. The output is good talks, lectures, etc. But it would be nice if Edmondson's had it and all the other wholesalers had it. It gives an unfair market advantage.
I do think that there's definitely a huge growth in CEF's in the work that Darren's doing. And I actually went to one at Durham. It was good. It was good. Excellent. It was good CPD. Good manufacturers there. It would be nice to see the likes of electrical center, Edmonds and all that have their central thing going on.
I mean, that'd be good to see. CEF are innovating without a doubt. And just to be clear here, I am actually one of the biggest customers of CEF in where I live in Essex. So it's not like I am not putting my business through them and all that sort of stuff. I am a good customer of theirs, and more importantly, they are doing innovation because they're doing it first. They're doing it regularly. They're hitting it hard. And I've been to it, and it's thoroughly enjoyable, really well presented. It's good. It's far better than anything the NIC used to do. It's far better than anything. Well, actually, NAPIT stuff is quite fun, to be honest with you. We've done some stuff with the NAPIT guys, but I also think it's a lot better than a lot of the tech talks at ELEX. And that's another thing. I haven't been to an ELEX in a couple of years. Don't really miss, no offense, Mr. Bowler, but I never have the time to go to them anymore because I'm so busy at work.
Yeah.
I used to take a lot of time off work just to go, and I'm like, same old.
I had planned this year to go to Harrogate because it's my local one. Yeah. I didn't kind of feel any pull or attraction to go. Because I had made time in my calendar to go. But again, I don't know. I didn't feel as if it was much more of a thing that I'd take part in anymore. But who knows? Maybe we'll do something in the future. There needs to be something to talk about. There needs to be a purpose to go. And I've heard so much about renewables and batteries and EV, and I focus so much on what needs to develop, but that's not what's being discussed. It's there's so much work about the market and the growth of that has and there's not enough talk about the challenges or what's wrong with EV at the moment or batteries, where we need to actually learn that it's more of a marketing to sell the technology, and that stuff doesn't interest me as much.
I don't. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Just before we go out, on by the way, I just want to give a quick shout out in podcasting world. So David Betteridge, thank you for consistently poking us and saying when you're doing more, when you're doing more. By the way, folks, he will be on one of these because he is mathematically phenomenal. And also Carmen Electrical on Instagram, he does message a lot. Bristol Sparky, I know I call him a Western wanker and all that. He's a lovely chap, by the way. So yeah, shout out to Bristol Sparky. He's just a fantastic Instagrammer. Instagram's pretty much all I use now. I use LinkedIn, but that's all what I suppose call the posh and polite stuff.
Corporate stuff, isn't it?
It's the corporate stuff. Yeah, if I started using the C words on LinkedIn, I'd probably get sacked. Although there have been many times when I've been sat on the train writing a venomous rant and then just deleting it once I've written it. But so anyway, right. So Amendment 3 came out. John, I'm going to share it on the screen, by the way. But I want you to get all emotional about what feelings you had when it came out. So, what were your thoughts? I've just got it on the screen now. Hopefully, it's on the screen.
I see
Can
it.
you see it? Yep, excellent.
It is there.
So, yeah, it's a standard cover. New BSI logo. God knows how much money they've spent on that. Interesting again, all the little changes. The line on the right-hand side has all the changes. So they've reworded. British Standards published on a joint authority of the Institute of Engineering Technology and Standards Policy and Strategy Committee. Yeah, little micro changes here. And ISBN numbers. Any changes to the committees? Doesn't look like it. And then this note by the HSE as well. That's always an interesting one. Has this been fully rewritten?
Not so I can say, no. I think it's just a couple of words have been changed, or they put an extra punctuation in, and
I think it's just a different structure. It's the same information.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the last bit there, Amendment 3 at the very end, the last bit there is obviously new because it's just updated.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see what weird things they slip in. So Amendment 3 issued 31st of July is intended to be implemented immediately. Again, it is same standards text. And this is the thing. When we heard about this, it was a big drum roll because it was like, this is the, if this was printed, it'd be the 51st edition. Noted by the health and safety. So they've reworded that again. But I can't see the major changes. IET, IEE.
Yeah, that's just
Amendment 3.
Yeah,
it's just Amendment 3. It's the whole paragraph.
Yeah,
and this is kind of the meat on the bones, really. Well, not much meat on many bones. They introduced bidirectional protective device and unidirectional protective device. So I'll read out what they're defined as. Bidirectional is what it is, really. It's a protective device which is intended by the manufacturer that a source of supply is connected to either or both sets of connection terminals. Unidirectional protective device is a protective device where it's intended by the manufacturer that a source supply is only connected to one defined set of connection terminals. So unidirectional, one flow, bidirectional, flow each way. John, what are your thoughts on those immensely detailed definitions?
I mean, these are quite odd definitions because 99% of what's in BS 7671 comes from other standards of various types.
Yes.
And those particular definitions don't exist in any other international standards anywhere. They're completely brand new. You can find protected device in plenty of them, and if you can find unidirectional and bidirectional in some of them, but in most of it, that's just referring to primarily electronics and other sorts of things. But bidirectional protected device and unidirectional protected device is apparently unique to BS 7671 now, which is a bit of an odd arrangement, really. So
interesting
to know who actually wrote those, because they certainly didn't take them out of anything else.
So I did see on one of the social posts that there was somebody inferred that it was in the product standard 61008, but Dave, you've checked it. I've checked it.
I looked at 009, obviously, but same difference at that point. I didn't see reference to direction at all in there, but
no, I checked 61008. It doesn't appear at all. I can't see any reference. Please feel free to put a comment where it does exist in any British international standard. But
any standard would be helpful, really.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the IEC, which is the International Electrotechnical Commission, king of all standards, has a lovely search portal where you can search for terms across all of the standards that they've got.
Isn't Electropedia?
That's one of their things. This is another one, but
okay.
Yeah, you can search across them and it will tell you which standards they appear in. And if you put those two things in, no results found.
Nothing. Oh, okay.
So yeah, it appears that someone has written up these specifically for this individual purpose, which is a bit unusual. And so you would expect them to appear in the product standards. Well, I think it is necessary because if devices could be potentially damaged by using them in ways they weren't intended, then yeah, it certainly needs to be updated. But it seems odd to stick it in BS 7671 first, as that's not a product standard. You would expect to find it in 61008 and others.
The product standards often take longer to update, don't we? We have that issue right now with 61851, don't we, with the switching of the protective conductor. The product standard timeline is longer. So it might be that this is going to happen in a product standard or product standards, but they just take much longer than obviously 7671 seems to take.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly hope so. I mean, not forgetting that CEF did actually send an email some while back claiming that this was an emergency update, as if it was some kind of real high priority, must be rushed in 6 seconds type of thing.
But I mean, it's an emergency update, but as we know, some manufacturers that are very, very popular right now don't actually have a product.
No, they don't.
This is what worries me. This whole, you're absolutely bang on. I find this disgusting when people put out bulletins that says it's an emergency update. Because okay, let's look at let's look at the reg and then what resonates from this. Okay, so chapter 53 has had a 201 reg. We all know the 200s are the UK specific. So this is our committee deciding this needs to happen. This has not come from the IEC 60364s. So it's regulation 5303-201. And it says selection and erection of equipment for protection shall take an account of appropriate use of either a unidirectional protective device or a bidirectional protective device. Pretty simple. Now, you could argue that that's in chapter 13 because it tells you about selection and erection of the installation suitable for its intended use, hazards, external influences, blah, 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 blah.
I'm telling you, this is something we've needed for a while.
Well, if you remember, Dave, when AFDD came in the 18th, it was actually warned about in the 17th. So the IET do like to sow seeds of stuff, and then when they realise that nobody actually understands the gobbledygook that they write it in, that they have to spell it out more in a reg. There is a note that says product standards is listed in Appendix 1 for some protective devices, including RCCB, RCBO, circuit breakers, and AFDDs. Require these devices to be marked to indicate if they are unidirectional, in and out, or line and load arrows. And that is true. In the standards, it does have in and out. But I can't find the words unidirectional.
That's the thing. So it has the marking of the connections in that respect, but the term of unidirectional is
Why do I get the feeling that this reminds me of the time when in like the early 2000s they had type A RCDs, but nobody actually knew what they were, and there wasn't much information of them, and yet Europe was banning them. Because I've been asked a few times about this, and I'm like, I've always had this narrative of we started off with a bit of a fuse wire, then we went into fuses, then we went into basic, MCBs, then we went into RCD, which was an optional extra, and then you have surge devices, and then you have AFDDs, and you have POP devices if you're in Europe, and then we realized, well, actually, no, hang on, DC current could blind or saturate and offset the sine waves so that it wouldn't work. Now we've got AC directional flow, so your AC voltage could be at the bottom or the output of your breaker, which could cause damage to some of the electronics, which means your RCD may not perform correctly. I can't say it'll break it because you don't know, but it's actually quite interesting when you think to yourself, what else have we not thought of?
Or what else do we think about too late? And in the case of this, it sounds to me like this amendment is something that should have been introduced at least in 2018, if there was a big push in the world of storage systems and batteries and consumerism and power in two directions. But again, going back into solar with feed-in tariffs, I mean, power was going in two directions then, to some respect, in some arrangements. So it does feel a little bit, again, probably why they're using this term emergency to kind of catch up with installation standards as they are.
Yeah, I mean, this is again, it should have been put in years ago, because
Yeah.
feeding power in from more than one place is not new. Every
No.
solar installation ever has done that. So even say like 15 years ago, that was happening. In terms of what these can actually get damaged with, none of the manufacturers are actually saying, well, because they don't want to tell people, but there's not actually a lot that could be damaged. The only thing is that when it's disconnecting, as if there's a fault or someone's turned it off, the real question is, what is it actually disconnecting internally? I mean, it's going to disconnect one side to the other, obviously, because that's its mechanical function, but it's really a question of whether the electronics are actually being disconnected, and if not, is that going to cause any damage? And then the other thing is the test button disconnected when it trips? So if you have power coming in the wrong end and it's not bidirectional, if someone presses the test button and holds it in, is it going to cause the thing inside to overheat and melt and smoke comes out? Because normally, if you press, like on an RCD, if you press the test button, it trips, and in doing that, it also disconnects the circuit for the test button. But if it's the other way around and it doesn't, potentially holding that test button in could make it powered continuously, and therefore the little resistor inside will go smoke and flames will come out. So that could be part of it.
Yeah. You gonna trial this out in a video, John, in the future?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Sounds like a good idea.
You definitely had me at the smoke and flames bit, John.
Yeah.
But, however, I have a Brucey bonus, because the wonderful people at Beamer have produced a guide. So it's now on the screen for those in podcasting world, or audio world, sorry. So Beamer have released in the month of August, literally in the last day or two, another one of their technical bulletins. And by the way, please go onto their website, download every technical bulletin they've ever done. We have copies of pretty much every single version of every bulletin they have ever done since the beginning of time. So if you want stuff from like the 2000s, we've got copies of it, and it's really interesting to watch the journey of understanding, which is a good thing. And also for a lot of Sparks, really annoying, because it's like, I think a lot of electricians still want it to stay the way it was, and we're not. I found myself, rather than complaining about regs fatigue, actually going, okay, learn something new. We've got to.
Yeah.
So,
these Beamer specific guides or articles or whatever we use them for. Again, there's so many, but they've got great illustrations. They've got great detail, but they are really leaned on, because they're, Beamer is an organization of manufacturers, basically, isn't it? So they're really leaned on in industry. So they're definitely, it's amazing how many electricians will still just lean on whatever 7671 says, and then obviously not look slightly sideways at what other information resource there is that kind of aligns with it.
And for those of you who are listening to this for the first time, please remember that the wiring regs is the minimum standard, not the one that you argue over. You're not trying to look at the ceiling. You're standing on top of the regs, working from the intent. It is a guidance note that you apply, and if you choose to depart, you should be able to depart in a competent manner that is documented and agreed by all persons. So this is on the screen now. It's called Circuit Protective Device Symbols. Please Google it. Beamer are the Trade Association for Energy Infrastructure and Systems. And what they were basically trying to do is teach people, does the product carry all the required key markings? And they've got a lovely little image that shows MCB, RCCB and RCBO. And obviously, for those who may not know, RCCB is an RCD, purely known as an RCCB, whereas an RCBO combines that MCB and RCBO characteristics together. MCB, now it's got some nice little images of what you would see, like a 6000, for instance, relate to short circuit capacity in amps, i.e. 6 kA, 10 kA, etc. Then there's stuff like energy limiting class. There's lots of, to be honest with you, there's some of the stuff on these breakers, even I don't know half the numbers and symbols. Manufacturer's name or trademark. Do you know and trust this name? We could do a podcast on which brands we trust. Dare we say them out loud? There is one brand that I genuinely believe the old loose wires cause fires, or this trade brand just tends to burn out more than most. But I won't say it on a podcast because they'll probably want to sue me. Anyway, so type, catalog, serial number, rated voltages, the rated current, etc., whether it's a type B, C, or D. Also remember that there's a type as well of RCD. So there's lots to learn. The test buttons, and if you look at the RCBOs, we've all done this in past webinars where you've got the Type AC, Type A, Type F, Type B. Type B Plus is a DIN standard, a German one. And to quote the late great Paul Skirm, I think I posted on someone's thing the other day, I can't wait till we realise that all the Type A's need to be picked up and thrown in the bin. On that bombshell,
it's just time. Just time. We're going to get that to that point, aren't we?
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
And I know people will cringe for me saying that and go, "Oh, typical me," and fear mongering. It'll happen.
Yeah,
it'll happen. Paul was, before he passed, the IET technical helpline. He was a genius that the IET people used to go to. The man knew what he was talking about, and I completely agree with him. Interesting, at the bottom, it's a little bit more expansion on unidirectional. So it says unidirectional are protected devices where it is intended by the manufacturer that a source or supply is connected to one defined set of connection terminals. These will be marked line, load, or in and out, or have directional arrows. The markings must be followed to avoid the function of the device becoming damaged and for compliance with 7671. And it even quotes Regulation 13411, Chapter 13. Bidirectional. So just be careful on a unidirectional, basically. Follow something to look for at EICRs. And do you know what? I think there'll probably be amended guidance for this on EICRs. Bidirectional are protected devices where it's intended by the manufacturer that the source or supply is connected to either or both sets of connection terminals, so it works in both directions. These devices are readily available for applications where power flow can exist in different directions, such for prosumer installations, solar PV systems, vehicle to grid, vehicle to home, or where battery storage systems are used. These devices will not be marked line and load, in and out, or have directional arrows. Interesting. I wonder if we can find some old breakers that don't have it but are not necessarily bidirectional.
That's the thing, is there's now this assumption that no markings equals bidirectional, and markings to mark unidirectional, and I don't know if legacy devices will adhere to that.
They won't, and they don't already.
Well, there we go.
I mean, Wilex or Electrium basically have already stated that their existing compact RCBOs are bidirectional and have been since they started making them, how many years ago it was. Unfortunately, they don't say bidirectional on them, and they have markings on them which indicate where you connect them. So there's already examples of things where they are actually bidirectional, but if you look on the actual product, it doesn't say
marked.
so.
Yeah, great.
Because they were made prior to this thing arriving, because they were obviously made years ago. So you can't go on the fact that the device itself doesn't have the markings on it. Unfortunately, you're going to have to check with the manufacturer whether existing products do or do not comply. So there's a big pile of bother. And of course, some people have already made some which don't have the markings, and they are not bidirectional. And obviously, again, check with the manufacturer. That's all you can do.
It sounds like JW's being very controversial there.
So it's already a mess. But yeah, Wilex and Crabtree as well, is the same basic products. They are, as are some other manufacturers, but obviously some of them are not. Some manufacturers said, yes, our new one's coming out whenever will be, but existing ones currently are not. So it's
so we need some credible resources, maybe like your website Flameport or something, where we can put a little database or a table together of devices, their history, when they were made, and if they are or if they're not.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that, but that's what we need.
So caution is required.
Indeed. I mean, going back to what you said, Paul, earlier about some electricians not wanting to kind of get involved like this. Just to quote, obviously, what was on Professional Electricians' website, where they quoted Mark Coles, obviously head of technical regulations. He says, "The days of the evergreen electrician are gone," which is something I think we have been trying to prepare electricians to prepare for, to think about this stuff over the years we've been doing this.
What changes in technology? Sorry, I'm thick.
Well, this is his wording. The days of the evergreen electrician are gone. Changes in technology, installation practices, and developments in standardization are happening so quickly. It's therefore so important that installers and designers stay well informed of what's happening in the industry. And then it talks about the IET being the authority on this. So I guess that means the electrician is like not too bothered about staying connected with things.
I've got a political comment to make, Dave. So
for
we
it.
look at society at the moment. Obviously, we've gone from years and years of Conservative to Labour. People are now protesting and rioting in the streets quite a bit. Obviously, society, you could argue, is not in a great place. This rush to net zero, which I did cover net zero, and we'll maybe do a podcast on it. I'm sorry, but there is a massive chunk of our sector that is just they're greenwashing.
Yeah, greenwashing.
This net zero race is bollocks.
I have
I'm
done.
sorry.
I've
Bollocks.
chosen my own CBD journey. Recently, I have done a qualification in sustainability just to help me sift through all this nonsense
Yep.
about, and then looking at the differences with environmental, and then obviously you've got economic, and then you've got social sustainability, and how organizations are behaving, and greenwashing is a big part of all this. It's pretty disgusting.
It is. It's become so for me. Net zero is the title of the next economic decade. That's what it is. It's like the Industrial Revolution, the Net Zero Revolution. We are doing stuff for the sake while completely breaching the principles of sustainability, which I like: reduce, reuse, recycle, common sense stuff. Where I work at the moment, we're doing net zero, and actually they've applied it in a sensible way, because what they're trying to do is apply it to financial governance and try not to rely on the government for money, the taxpayer. That's actually a sensible use because it's explained clearly. But there is a hell of a lot of greenwashing going on. There is a mass fear that the energy efficiency of an electrical installation is going to only benefit the cable manufacturers, and actually it's not going to really benefit anyone at all, because we're going to produce more. And when you look at the original definitions of net zero, which came from the Office of National Statistics, it talked about statistical probabilities, and the data effectively, you can manipulate that data to what you need it to be. I can see, having read it, and I did cover it in a webinar I did for the IET, you can make this square peg fit in a round hole, and you can declare net zero by 2035 as long as you're planting in trees and doing all the other stuff to offset your carbon emissions. I just think it's inherently deceptive way to stimulate economics, spend more, rip out, replace.
There are companies that now call themselves like carbon positive.
Oh Jesus!
Because they put trees in another country. You think, great, that doesn't help with local sustainability. That doesn't help with any of the actual demographics that we need to achieve with sustainable arguments and challenges. But that's the model, isn't it?
A lot of it is an excuse so they can just bung some money somewhere and say, look, we've done our bit, when in fact trees that are never planted and other stuff, and even if they are planted, let's face it, that doesn't fix any problem, does it? It's just trees in some distant place that may or may not exist, and even if they do, well, so what?
We could definitely do another podcast just on this subject.
I have a friend who works for a certain organisation that I shall not name, and one of the things that they found was they were looking at the carbon credentials of businesses that in a certain sector, and what they were doing is they were submitting their annual reports, and part of that was net zero, carbon, all that good stuff. And what they were seeing was, and this is a conversation in a pub, so take it with a pinch of salt, was that they were saying, we've offset our carbon, X amount of 1,000 kilotons by planting trees in Argentina, which was fantastic. And what they do is they get a certificate and they get photos of all the trees they've planted. And while they were going through looking at stuff, people were going, hang on a minute. And what they were doing was, one company was getting a certificate for 20,000 trees planted, hooray, photo of the trees. They then pick up the report for another company, and it was the same photo. It's the exact same photos for all these different companies. So that like with anything, it can be manipulated, it can be defrauded, it can be very deceptive. But yeah, you're right. Do you know what? Let's actually do a podcast on net zero. It'd be good therapy. We'll make sure it's got an 18 rated sticker on the thingy, because it would just be us swearing for an hour saying, look, just calm down, think about what you're doing. Just on that, and we will kind of come to an end. But what I want to do is tease. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. So one, Mr. Betteridge needs to get his backside into one of these Friday, Saturday night chats and talk about maths and various other stuff.
I have a meeting with him tomorrow. I will let him know.
Give him a good kick in. There is another term that we need to do a podcast on: parasitic capacitance.
Ooh.
So there is a chap in Nappet who I did what did I do? I did battery storage and EV with him. Dave. And what
Dave.
he's finding is, because he does speak to Sparks a lot of the early generation solar panels, the actual panels are breaking down, and he's getting up to 115 volts on the metal frames.
I saw a video of him demonstrating it on LinkedIn.
It's on LinkedIn, indeed. Dave Curtis.
Dave Curtis,
please go and check out Dave Curtis. He's a decent chap, suffers fools poorly, and just talks like a common sense northern Spark should do. But he's come up with parasitic capacitance. Now, we had a chat about it the other day, and he has said, look, that even the high and mighty geniuses don't have a solution for this yet. So it would be really interesting that any solar PV guys maybe get in touch that have experienced this, how we go around solving this, because this is another problem that ironically, and this is the dumb thing here, do you remember ages ago when I was talking about an example with the blinding of the RCD, and there was a bond up to the rig and it was blinding the RCD? That was parasitic capacitance. That's what's causing it. So we're now coming up with these new terms. So what we'll do is, in the future, we'll do one on parasitic capacitance. But before we end it all, I think we need to tease Amendment 4.
Okay.
I sound like a Hollywood movie producer saying Amendment 4, like I'm trying to spank a franchise. But the geniuses that are the IET and the JPEL committee and all of those wonderful peers have actually announced that they are doing an Amendment 4 of the wiring regs. It won't be out for a couple of years, so it gives us a chance to wait and get the book. But
again, I think more people, more stakeholders talking about it, getting more people to engage with it, it's definitely a positive thing.
So what I'll do is I'll leave you with the I'm quoting directly the text here. Areas for proposed change, because again, we'll do a DPC webinar. Yeah. Stationary secondary batteries. I'm so glad I haven't put any batteries in my house yet. New requirements for restructuring of medical locations. A new section on functional equipotential bonding for information and ICT equipment. I think that's because they did an update a few years ago on one of the BSENs on that, and we've never had proper synergy. Clarification around commercial protected escape routes. So Dan is definitely going to know about that. Conductor classes, load curtailment, firefighter switches. Maybe they're making a return. Low voltage generating sets. There'll obviously be some updates to that. PoE. Dave, did we not talk at Alex years ago?
Yeah.
As I said, folks,
evidently it has to come in, doesn't it?
If you want to know the future, just look at the BSEN 60364 series of standards, or look at the NEC 70 in America, which has just been updated. You can see the future of where things are coming. So none of this will be a surprise. No. The other thing is energy efficiency and functional earthing. John, I think that's section 83.
It could be.
I think, because if they put chapter 83 in, that's an excuse to make another book. No way is it going to be a free download.
Already used as a prosumer?
No, so 81.
No,
yeah, 80. No, 81 is Appendix 17 at the moment. 82 is prosumer, and 83 is reserved for operation of prosumers.
Yeah. So, but this is in 2018. Remember, we had energy efficiency in the public draft, and everyone went, "Oh, it's nothing to do with the fundamental principles. Get rid."
Yeah.
And it became, was it BSEN 60364-81 or something?
Yep. And we were looking at parts 1, 2, and 3 the minute they came out, going, "Oh dear." This energy efficiency of an installation, making a cable bigger to reduce the losses. So no more 1 mil lighting circuits, maybe.
It's inevitable. It's going to make sense.
So the reason I think this is a new book, an update to swimming pools and other basins, new requirements for camping and caravan parks, and a restructuring, the most important one, for the guidance around EICRs.
Yeah, I'm nervous about that one, because I get the feeling that's going to create an awful lot of confusion. There's confusion already around the ICRs, and
maybe that's why they're changing.
They'll clean it up. I mean, the coding in particular. Everyone codes to outcome instead of codes to the regulations, which is annoying.
Yeah, there is definitely a bit of a. We definitely need to probably cover that again, I think, because there is more of an issue around EICRs than meets the eye, because there's too much controversial coding on it.
Yeah, the outcome interprets their opinions on the codes. That's the way it is.
But also, here's one. Just throw in the hat. Why are we coding to the current edition? I know why. but why? Because there's two sides of that argument. Because if you code to the current edition, you're going to fail stuff. But yet we then say, doesn't mean it didn't comply at the time of install. So why are we coding to the current edition?
I mean, I strongly believe we should code to our own understanding of the utilization of the system. And if it was made at an older period of time and it's still used the way it was made at an older period of time, then there's no inherent increase in safety in risk.
Yes.
But you know,
Totally.
That requires a big understanding of older wiring systems and older installation practices, which a lot of people who do the 2391 straight after they enter the industry, they don't have that.
And this is where my brain is, because I genuinely do believe that a lot more thought should go into how we assess the coding we give, rather than just blindly coding stuff. I don't know. Maybe Code Breakers has actually not served the purpose it served when it first came out. I'm not saying it's a bad book, by the way, because we're in it. But
yeah, I mean, from my, I mean, I've always tried to kind of keep an open mind to it all. About the fact is, you know, if it's potentially dangerous, then obviously I understand there's a potential danger and there's an immediate need to consider it unsatisfactory. But does that mean we have to make it unsatisfactory? Could there be a way to work around that? But when I went to see the CEF talks, Darren and that, they were basically highlighting the electrical safety first best practice guide, and they were basically saying this is the industry requirement, this is what we must have. And I was like, oh, there's many things in there that I would challenge under certain circumstances. You know, it's very much relative. It's very relative to what's in front of you, not what's in a piece of not what's in a guidance document. And that's the challenging thing.
Is dangerous.
Very much so. So I disagreed with that very much.
Every document you get, you should be using as a piece of information that you make an informed decision to work from, not electrical safety first say it, or NAPIT Codebreaker says it, so I must be. No,
that's very much the discussion point that they were raising, and I disagree with that fully. And I kind of went, but now look at this list. I can understand a lot of this stuff. It's definitely moving in the technology space. I think the caravan park one might be because, you know, with caravan parks, we have to have a TT for every single charging point, every caravan point. Maybe with changes in protection with EV, with open pen protection, maybe they'll explore that in caravans. I don't know why they'd mess around with caravan parks. I don't know why else they'd mess around with caravan parks. Other than that you have to TT every caravan connection. If they had an open pen device, maybe that would change the parameters there. And we know the IoT is still working. It's not finished, is it? On the open pen stand. Yeah, they're still working on that right now. So it could be that things kind of position themselves to make that standard more applicable to a wider range of installations.
So I looked at ES01. I read it in quite a bit of detail, and I actually didn't get the time to comment on it. But ES01, and I have said this to people on that committee, it's basically 4 standards that have been cut and paste very badly together to try and create something. I get that, but I think in the absence of something, maybe just thinking outside the box would be a lot better. So I don't think that's come out yet. At some point it will do, and it will hopefully inform and guide people better. But I've no doubt the IET are going to publish more and more and more and more and more books.
They're a publication company now.
Well, they are. Well, they actually are. So they're a membership organisation, they're a publishing organisation, and they're a charitable organisation. I do wish they'd actually be very open with the way they explain that, because you do see them saying we're a charity, and you're like, well, no, you're a publishing organisation. Actually, you work for the publishing department, you work for the membership department. Your charitable stuff is amazing what it does, but you don't work for the charitable bit. But so what was the other thing I was going to say?
So coming back to this announcement about Amendment 4, this is draft for comment coming out in August, very soon, basically. Is that right?
7th of August, 5 days.
And then we have 2026 plan of publication?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I think this is going to be a hell of a lot of changes. So does that mean next weekend we're going to have to sit down and go through this? And
yes, it does. Actually. Yes, it does. Yeah, next few weekends are booked now, aren't they?
Okay.
Yeah, but it's definitely going to be a new book, because there's no way you can put those changes into just a little pamphlet or some supplement. So it's a whole new book.
And I think looking at the complexities of what may come in, I think there probably will be training-wise an update as well. 2026 time.
Yes.
I think so.
Yes. And I tell you what, it is. I do think the industry is it's quite exciting what's happening in the industry at the moment. But I've said for years we are running before we can walk, and I know that's part of the perils of new technology. But I do think we're probably not getting it right.
The key examples of that exactly is like the pass that we have for batteries. You know, I was saying to people on courses, don't put these things in lofts, don't put these things up in lofts. 6 months, a year later, we get this guidance, this recommendation, which further down the road will become an expected thing that we may even code against in the future. Running before we walk is what we're good at, unfortunately.
It is good to see the NAPIT boys, even the IET boys, getting out and about, talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Breaking down those old ivory tower type approach walls. It's good to see the more transparency we have. I mean, I've said this for years. I'd love to see a JPL-E, ironically. I'd love to see a JPL-E made of electricians, contractors that are limited to 5 years, that they then veto the regs. They veto and say, nope, this is stupid. This is going to impact cost. Because I still have the inherent fear that Mrs. Jones, 80-year-old, has had John Ward rewire a 4-bedroom house with Type A RCBOs, SPD, and then in 5-10 years, she's sitting by the fire and someone tests her wiring and says, sorry, love, it's all non-compliant, you've got to rip it all out. And she then sits there and goes, curse you, John Ward, curse you.
Yeah. It's a case of making that media immediately available to the people who need to see it. I mean, Electrical Safety First did yeah, that was them. They did I saw a video of them on LinkedIn about lightning striking a building and the behavior of the energy through the system, and then going in the ground, and then obviously the lightning stroke going to the neighboring property. As a visual media, it was very, very powerful. Seeing how all the equipment breaks down helps us argue the case for SPDs for electricians. So electricians have that media on their phone, and they go, there's an SPD on this quote. What does it do? A media like that is very helpful, because it means that electricians haven't got to try to explain it. Now I saw that literally just, I think, yesterday.
Can you
they're putting they're putting a lot of effort in. And it's a case of, if we can help them get that media to the public, to customers, if electricians have an app, even Electrical Safety First with media, show this to my customers, it'll help explain why we need this, why we need these devices. So there's a lot of good stuff happening.
Yeah, no, it is good, and that's the thing. Is this why we don't have to do all this all the time, every time?
Exactly.
There's other people talking and doing stuff. So, we'll do Amendment 4 then next weekend. We'll have a go at cracking that egg open and see what it comes. And again, we're going to see it for the first time, the same as you folks do. We don't get any early previews. We're not on any of the committees, so we're just independent speakers, really. And on that bombshell, last final thoughts on Amendment 3, JW?
Well, it exists, but it's a free download anyway, so just go and get it. It's basically, things should be considered whether they need to be directional or bi-directional, and if you need one, put the right one in, and that's pretty much it. It's literally one little paragraph of text plus about 9 pages of contents and introduction and indexes and all that lot. So pretty straightforward stuff.
Thank you, sir. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, it's minor information, but it's pretty major in what it's trying to do. It's late. It should have been in many years ago. What is probably more alarming to me is the amount of manufacturers that are very popular right now who don't have a product on the market. And electricians who are used to liking a particular manufacturer regularly, hopefully they'll bring them to market soon. Just make sure you communicate and get that information and understand when they'll be landing from China, wherever they're coming from.
That worries me quite a lot, to be honest with you. That does, because
a lot of electricians, I see a particular brand a lot being used, even when I do a lot of observations of electricians doing their portfolios. It's very, very popular, very, very common, but really there's not a lot of pedigree or even R&D or resource or laboratories or anything. And in this case, a situation like this, there's not a lot of support. It's just a case of wait for them to come from China, and then they've got them.
Well,
so just look at the manufacturers a bit more.
I've got a shed that I'm installing, and I'm putting an RCBO, but I'm waiting for the bi-directional one, so that if I ever have solar, it would go on my shed, and a battery there. It would be a small system. I'm not rich. And that would be it, but it'd be bi-directional. So I'm waiting on that manufacturer to come out. So yeah, Amendment 3, there you go. It's one new reg. It's UK specific.
Yeah.
It will be very interesting to see how it's coded. But I think it's safe to say we're now understanding the behaviors more and more and more of bidirectional currents and voltages and all these wonderful things. There's no such thing as linear. I think, John, you said it on one of our 18th edition. It used to be very linear. Now it's this way, that way, and it all points in between. So, Amendment 3. Download it for free. And on that bombshell, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. On behalf of the boys, take care of yourself and each other. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.